Yeah, it seems to be everything seems to be in a state of flux, constantly changing. Like emotions come in waves. Like I'm feeling if I speak about myself for a second, like one moment I'm feeling happy and content, and the next I'm feeling angry and pissed off, and like it doesn't seem to, like, if there's one thing that's true, it doesn't seem to be as if there isn't a way things are. Like things seems to be changing constantly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
But there is one. I think there's one thing that feels the same, and that's the self, which is a bit hard to explain. But like I'm saying, the feeling of Dan, and not even Dan, or the feeling of Aaron, and it's not as an idea. I don't think it's an idea. I think it's a sensation, right? I think it's a knowing, right? And even when you're in your dream, and in your dreams at night, I'm saying, and it's completely different. You're in a completely, I don't know, you're flying on a cloud, or I don't know, you're eating the bones of a dragon or something. The most randomest, craziest thing, or whatever it is. But you still feel like you. So I think that's a consistent thing, even though you're changing all the time. Like you're saying, yes, well, sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm happy. Sometimes I'm immature, sometimes I'm mature, sometimes I'm serious, I'm less serious, sometimes I'm lazy. Whatever it is, that's true. But I think there is something fundamental that stays the same that I have felt my whole life. Just like when you were 10 years old, you still feel like you, no?
yes,
You know what I mean? There's a consistent thread of the feeling of me.
yes,
Now, I mean, people that can even transgender in a way and have a different sex, be part of a different sex and still feel like themselves to a certain degree. So it's very, I mean, it's very mysterious. This all, it's all like, I mean,
mm,
you can be 10 years old or you can be 90 years old, and yet you feel the same. And I believe that you can even have amnesia, or you can have Alzheimer's or something like that, and you have no memory. But yet there's
yes,
a part of you that still feels the same. I mean, probably less because the memories also make up bits of part of your experience. But I think fundamentally we always remain that sort of core same, and I think that's the spirit. I think that's the soul.
yes,
That we're kind of talking about. I mean, I don't know. It's just sort of observation, this kind of thing. So everything is in flux. You're right. I mean, I
mm,
see more grey hairs for myself every day, and I can see I've changed, and I don't look the same, or whatever it is, and don't sound the same, and whatever. But there's something that stays the same at the same
yeah.
time. But it grows. It's a very strange thing because it grows tremendously, but it always, I don't know, it always fascinates me that.
I thought about this today, and I thought about asking you this. What do you think? Is there a next? Like, what happens after we die? Like, what do you have any certain beliefs or?
Sure. Um, well, I'm not sure, but there's no doubt about it. Just as much as we're speaking now, and as there's something after we die. I think it's the main thing. I think it's the main. I mean, it's all main. This is not to say that, but I'm saying this is also main. It's all main. But I think that I've done a lot of research, not recently, but on near-death experiences that people have had, and whatever, and you know it's hard to say what it is, but they say that it feels more real, that it feels more rich, like emotions are more rich, right? They say it feels more easygoing, more comfortable, right? That a lot of the people who did pass away or had these near-death experiences on the other side did not want to come back to their body or to the earth or to their life here, because they said that it was just so loving, it was so warm, it was so wonderful, it was so beautiful, that this world to them felt like absolute hell and pain and misery. Look, some of the people their bodies were mangled in car accidents or fell out of a plane, and horrible situations where people drowning and whatever it might be, and so their bodies were in a lot of pain, war situations, etc. But beyond that, it just seemed so much more real. Like this world almost felt like it was sort of like, comical in a way, like a comic, or something or other. So I think that's where where it's really at. I mean, is in when we pass on from this life. Do we speak English? Is there such a thing as English? I don't even think that can be sort of comprehended.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's so different. Obviously, I think it's just so that we can't put it into words. We can't explain it. I think you can imagine it. I think that's why the imagination is so important. Because you can only sort of link to it or connect to it somewhat of it through the imagination. That this could be possible. I mean, movies kind of help, and CGI or whatever it is to a certain degree, but there isn't really the feeling, I would say. I think music also gives a bit of an indication of what it might feel like. That
yes,
a beautiful song, that your favorite song or something like that. I think that touches us, reconnects us to that feeling. Whatever it is. And so I also think that it's not just for experience sake, but I think it's also a part of time where we, have an opportunity to reflect and look at our lives and look over our lives, and see, did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? Did we complete what we wanted to complete? Is our work done?
yes.
And I think we look at that and we feel, we can't be distracted at that level. And I don't think I wouldn't say maybe there is agony in feeling all the lost opportunity, or things we didn't accomplish in our lives and the karma that we caused. I don't know if it's a pain necessarily, but it's a great discomfort, I think, on the soul, because the soul is in a place of such, high intensity, and it's kind of vibrating at quite a low intensity, so it's a little bit uncomfortable, I would say. It's like there's a restlessness, and that restlessness is a very good thing. In fact, I'm just saying in our lives, that's why I think we do feel restless too. We can't just lie in bed the whole day. We do feel restless about that because there is work to be done. So I think when the work hasn't been done yet, I think, you have the life reflection, the life review, you check it all out, whatever it is. I don't know, maybe then you spend moments, because again, there's no real time there, I believe, with people that you may have passed on that you've missed, and you share stories, whatever it is, which must be fantastic. And then you say, look, I've got to go back and sort of fix this thing up, and that I needed to do, and I didn't do this, or I was too afraid of that, or I could have done more, or whatever it is. And then this is what Manly P. Hall talks about. And he says, but most times when we come back here, we have amnesia. The idea that the angel touches you above the lip, which creates that indentation, and that touching makes you forget. So you come here and you forget, and then you're conditioned, and then you traumatized by this world, and whatever it is, and then and so you start up again, and then you forget, and then I don't know. So I think that's what I think, and but I think what's very important of the time that we're in now is that it might possibly be from a I don't know how to put it, but let's say that there's a football game going on, and there's it's almost done, and throughout the game, players have been substituted. They've changed player 8 for number 7 or something like that. Is that the word, substituted? I don't know.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that idea is that it's substituted. So because the game was still being played and they can still bring other players in. But now, I wonder if the game is really over in regards to humanity. Like if we're really going to just become sort of trans-humanism, like just robots or something like that, and there's no real experience for the soul. Who knows what the hell's going on? We have no idea. But it's almost like the game is over. So what about all those souls that want to reincarnate here? They want to continue the work or whatever it is on planet Earth. It's like planet Earth is not the same as it used to be, anywhere close to the last 25,000 years. So, it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen on a soulful spiritual level? It's very interesting. What is going to happen to humanity? Are we, in 10 years' time, are we going to become cyborgs? Then where is the soul? Where is the experience? Is there still someone to have an experience, right? Where is that consciousness? These are profound, deep questions, but we're definitely heading in that way. We're definitely becoming more cyborgs. We already are through our cell phones and our technology, in a sense. But once the stuff is implanted into us, I was thinking about VR technology, and how it doesn't seem to have really taken off, like with the goggles. I mean, I don't know anybody that wears the goggles or has enjoyed using them. It's like, because it's too overwhelming. But if we're able to download our consciousness into a whole nother sort of paradigm, I mean, it sounds bizarre, our experience into a whole, what does that mean? What does it mean on a soulful level? So these are very intriguing questions,
Yes.
and it proves to be a very, very interesting time. And that's why there is no going back, because again, like, not just with this whole CV story, and but the fact that the overpopulation problem, the fact that so many people are miserable on this planet, the fact that there's so few jobs around anymore, the fact that technology is again taking over the jobs, the resources, the environment, the whatever it is. We're in a very, very particularly unique time in history, and what's to come, I mean, who knows? But it's, as Terence McKenna said, it's not business as usual. We can't expect it to. The one thing that we can expect is change. Now the question is it change for the better or for the worse? And then you ask yourself, well, what am I doing while I'm on this whole ride? What am I doing here? What's my place in all of this? And that's what I'm saying, coming back to the question we were asking in the beginning. I mean, I was mentioning in the beginning of this talk, we're saying, well, who am I and what am I in all of this and what's my role, type of thing, I think it's very important. I want to mention just one more thing that, like, I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I was saying that I feel at the moment, like with this whole CV story and what's going on in the world, is that, like, and I don't mean to use the word sheep as in sheep, but sort of as truth as may use the word the sheep. I'm not meaning that. I'm just using it as an analogy. Let's say there's, I don't know, 10 billion sheep, like all huddled together, somewhere on some country land, which stretches for kilometers and miles and whatever long, and they're all pure white. And now you are a sheep, but your wool is sprayed neon yellow. Okay, so you like completely stand out. But now the problem is the more that you, as a sheep, start moving into the mass of the crowd, you start losing your yellow and it starts becoming white. Your wool starts becoming white. It's like somebody's almost bleaching your wool. And what's happening, and slowly the further in you go, you're losing your uniqueness. You're losing that which contrasts you and makes you different to all the other sheep. And eventually you become completely immersed and unrecognizable and part of the whole, sheep, and you don't exist. And I just have a feeling that that's what's going on now. Like I'm saying, for each person, for this new time that we're in, that people are joining into, they're losing their individuality, they're losing their sovereignty, they're losing their unique color that makes them them, and they're all just being bleached into the same sort of, layer or color or something like that. So there's nothing distinguishable about each one of us, and that's a very scary idea. So I think it's up to the artist and the individual and the free thinker. I don't know, the paradigm, not the paradigm, the what's the word? I can't think of it now. But that, whatever that person, individual, to the pioneer. That's the word.
Persona.
Say again?
Persona.
No, the pioneer. No.
Okay.
Well, the persona, you see, that's another thing, is that, like, the persona is something that needs to be left behind. The persona is, well, more so when I talk about the identity, the one that, like, society knows us by, and the way that we see ourselves through the eyes of society, we imagine ourselves to be, like the player in the game. It's society's perspective on us, and then our own perspective through the eyes of society that we use, to look at ourselves. Like, you might look at yourself saying, Dan, and according to your age, how much money in the bank do you have? How many cars do you own? That kind of materialistic view of yourself. Are you sexy? Have you got a six pack? Whatever it is. Are you good at golf? Yeah. Whatever it might, yeah, exactly. And so, like, how you identify by it, identify that you're a winner or a loser through society. So I was like, that's persona, that's ego, that's the self, I would call that. I'm saying that one should be aware. I don't like to use the word self because I would rather say ego or identity or something like that. The mask that you wear, and so that has to be let go of, because essentially it's quite a childish, adolescent way. It's like kind of an oak tree that's growing, and I mean this thing is huge, but yet it's having to lean on other plants or something like that. Or something or other. I don't know. You've got to step away from the culture and the society in a sense, and the imagery and whatever it is, and all its philosophies, dogma, and whatever, the fear-basedness of it, the one-dimensional of the whole thing, and find one's own, uniqueness again. And I think that's the uniqueness again that we feel every day of our lives. What makes you feel different to me? You know what I mean? What creates that boundary? What creates the feeling of Dan to Aaron?
Yes.
And we work on that feeling. Okay, I know that feeling. Now, what is that feeling pushing me to do? What is that feeling saying now? But it's, and you're going to be contrasted, because there's going to be thoughts in your head that really aren't, not just you, me as well, all the time. The critic, the voice of the critic, it's the voice of our parents, it's the voice of, I don't know, friends from high school who bullied us or something like that. Older brother or older sister or something like that. Whatever, something that we saw on TV that said that you're nothing or whatever. So, there's the voice that's there all the time, and that's what's unsettling and annoying. And we in contrast with that. And I'm saying, so it's a fight. It's a daily challenge. But it's the part of the centeredness. When you know your centeredness and you know who you are, then these thoughts come and they go, and they're uncomfortable, but you recognize what they're about, and and whatever, and you just realize that you're part of this great experience. The emotions, they come and they go, the darker days and the lighter days, and they come and they go. But the thing is that, again, it's not that we're just the observer in it all, because I think that's, somewhere more of an Eastern approach, where you're just the observer and there's nothing you can do. These are just fluctuating patterns that come and go, just like clouds, there's nothing you can really do about it. And that's not true. I think that we can feel good about ourselves fundamentally, if we deserve to feel good about ourselves. Sure, we're going to feel shitty about ourselves sometimes, but fundamentally we're going to still feel like, we're good. There's something inherent in us. There's a viable sense of just quality within us, even though, like, I don't know, maybe we try to bake a cake and we stuffed it up or something, or we dinged our friend's car that we're borrowing for the day. Yeah, we're going to make slip-ups, but fundamentally you don't doubt, to a degree, your own value, your own divinity, your own worth, your own essence. And that's what I think it is. And so it's a constant, work in progress. It's a constant, from the moment we wake up, even when we're sleeping, we're having these experiences. Our dreams are showing us so much about ourselves, so much about that which we don't think about, which we maybe take for granted, or that we haven't processed, fears, anxieties, whatever it is, a whole lot of, we live in an adventure, a rich, wild, deep, profound experience, that is, I tell you, every moment is off the wall. It's like, it's so bizarre, it's so abundant, and it's so rich, and it's what we're involved in. But most of us are so disconnected from it that, and so we can't even dare to approach it because of its magnitude. But I say we can get used to it. We can climatize to the mystery of life, to the beingness, to the unknown or something or other, through the adventure, it's the limitless, man. It's like we have the boundlessness of things. It's the godliness of, it's huge, man. It's absolutely huge. And so it's amazing that we live our small little lives, behind these white picket fences, as Joe, as Jack, as whoever it might be, very sort of sublime, or very, whatever it is, nothing special, nothing wowed, or whatever it is. And I think that is the greatest act, the greatest trick, the magic performance, that we can actually believe, that we are just, I don't know, our name, our title, our job, our position in the family, our what we have in the bank, our citizenry, whatever it is. It's like that's the biggest joke of all. I mean, we are timeless, so infinite souls that have experienced, I reckon, many, many, many lifetimes. I mean, possibly who knows how many. We've sat at maybe the throne of God, and listened to the wise wisdoms in previous, not lifetimes, but previous, I don't know, in between lives or whatever. We have no idea how profound the experience is, We have no idea how far we've traveled. We are truly a mystery, and we're discovering out that every day. So it's not boring if you get in touch with the mystery, I think it's very thrilling, it's very exciting, and it's very nerve-wracking,
Yes.
And there's a big sacrifice involved, because again, even though I can talk about it and you can talk about it and we can compare notes, you do it alone, like when you dream at night, you dream on your own. You wake up in the morning and you tell me your dream, but I wasn't sharing that dream with you. The vividness, the feeling, the sensation, whatever it might be, you can just put it into maybe like a little picture form or something like that for me, and I can try my best to appreciate what it meant, But like if it was a nightmare, I don't know how. I can imagine to a certain degree and try to put myself in your shoes, but you and you alone had that dream, and you alone have the thoughts that you have, right? Have the feelings that you have. I mean, we share them, it's common, but it's unique to each one of us, which is so bizarre. Like, for example, I know how an apple tastes, and so do you, but I have no idea how an apple tastes to you, and that what makes it so unique. We could talk about the differences from apples to the smell of a rose to the feeling of a tight shoe. I mean, it could be pretty similar, to certain degrees, but there's a vast difference in it, and not only that, what makes it also so interesting is that we do these things in different moods. Some days, I don't know, like if you know that you're going to see an old friend and you're having a shower before, and the whole thing is so vibrant, and you're excited and you're looking forward to it. It's a long lost lover, let's just say, or something like that. I don't know. But then there's days where you're showering and you're just feeling like getting back into bed, and there's no vigor. I'm just saying, it's like there's so much happening, and also, like, I don't know. We could be having a piece of cheesecake, right? But I mean, it could be the day after, let's say, heaven forbid, your dog just died, and that cheesecake doesn't taste the same at that time. So it's all very much based on time and season. I mean, I know that sounds whatever different, but like if you've had 10 pieces of cheesecake and now I'll offer you another one. Okay, maybe I'm just getting carried away here, but I'm just saying we each experience things at a very unique time and space in our own lives. It's very, very particular. It's very, very unique. My experience of South Africa, of my world, of living in a third world country to your first world country is very, very different, obviously, and we can compare notes, but we don't know what it's like necessarily completely, because our experiences are completely vastly different. So that's what I'm saying. But we're still living on planet Earth, vast differences. I mean, the difference between a man and a woman, vast, huge differences, but that's not something that we want to look at in today's world. We just want to see that man and woman are the same in a sense. Of course, there's a difference. The one is it's completely. I mean, from this point of view, from a soulful point of view, of having eyes to see as a woman, of having men gawk at you or looking at you. I mean, I don't know, or something like that. So again, it's appreciating the differences, the uniqueness in that sense, and then asking yourself, like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
So, man, just got carried away there.
No, it was good. I forgot what I was going to say here.
But am I being reasonable in what I'm saying, or do I just sound, like, I don't know.
No,
I mean,
I agree with you. If anything, life in general, consciousness in general, seems to be infinite. It
right.
seems like to me, my beginning started 30 years ago. Okay, it seems 30 years ago. I can only remember 25 of it, but even my memory of the past 25 years is still limited to what I can retain. But to me, there was a beginning. But to me, it doesn't. It doesn't. There's a beginning. There's a middle, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be an end. Like I can't. I can't even imagine an ending. Like how can something? How can something disappear? Once something becomes physical, it's almost like how can it can transform, it can change, but it can't disappear. You can't turn something into nothing, in my opinion. There's always going to
That's
be
it.
something there, like a remnant, a fossil, some sort of evidence that we existed as human beings.
But more so on an energetic level, like you energy doesn't die, it transforms, it changes in a sense, but it doesn't evaporate. I mean,
Yes.
I wonder if it's the same with water. That water doesn't disappear. Like you can, if you heat it up, it
Yes.
turns into steam, and it goes into the atmosphere. So it's either a solid or it's formless or it's a liquid or something. Whatever it is, it can be ice, which is a solid. So it changes, but it's always there. You can't get rid of it. You
Yes.
know,
Exactly.
and so it's the energy is the soul as well. It's like you can't get rid of that, per se. But I mean, it is as far out. It's like there's many things we don't necessarily know because again, like, is the soul even able to be downloaded into technology if it can get to that level? Can you move your consciousness from one body to another? Into an
Yeah.
avatar if you want or something like that. Like what happens? So these are questions obviously we don't necessarily yet know, which will be interesting. But again, that everybody has a soul. That's also another question. Now you're getting into the idea of like, I mean, that everybody has a soul, or just some people are NPCs. Is that what they called it?
What did you say?
NPC.
NPC?
An NPC. Like when you play, it's a non-person character. Like if
I,
you're playing a video game,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
or like the characters are NPCs. They got scripts and they look like they're alive. I mean, and you're talking to them, in the game, but essentially they're very limited. It's almost
Yes.
like the people in the Truman Show that were just maybe only, like they were machine, let's say
Reading scripted
robots,
lines. Yeah. Okay.
reading a script, and that's all they actually were. So
Yeah.
something like that. And so we don't know on that level, like, is that how it works? Like, what about these evil people? Like, do they have a soul? Are they just sort of robots or something like that? I mean, I think all of these things are possible. I think there is a possibility of all of these things. Because, I mean, you look at the Terminator, what is the
Yeah.
Terminator about? He felt nothing. He was programmed to just kill, right? And follow his mission and do what that was his mission. And he didn't, he had there was no consequences, there was no emotion, there was no, like, I mean, he could, rip a baby's head off. He didn't feel anything, it's just a
Yeah.
machine. And so
Yeah.
you ask ourselves, can we be reverted down to machines where we can basically, just have no empathy, no morality, and no goodness? And that's a question. I mean, can we?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily. But then where does the spirit go? Where does the soul go? But at the same time, the person's still having an experience. I don't know. It's like, because
Yes.
people say, well, they're just sheeple and then they're not awake. So if they're not awake, they're not awake. That's true, but they're still having an experience. So in other words, it's like, you're not driving the car. Someone else is driving the car, but you're still having the experience of being in the car and going left and going right and going up and going down.
Yes.
Or something like that. There is something like that each soul is still having an experience, even though they're not awake, and even they're not utilizing their free choice, whatever it
Yeah.
is. I don't know. We live in a very
Yeah, I think it's possible for humans to do unfathomable, I can't even say the word, unfathomable things. Like we can commit the most heinous atrocities known to man, but we can never get rid of the feeling that what we're doing is wrong. I think every person that does something wrong knows they're doing wrong, and they will regret it. Like Hitler, or I was going to bring up Hitler before, but like, given our history of what of the negative things that the human race has done, we can do bad things, but we know we're doing something bad when we're doing it. I think, anyway.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's the conscience. That everybody has a conscience, and the conscience is the connection to God. And that you feel you feel something, and I mean, I do, but I think majority of people who do feel it, they distract themselves from it. I think it's just too painful for them. I think that's what all the addictions are in the world today. I think that's what we're doing the most in this life. Yes. I think is that what this life is about. I'm saying what consumerism is about, capitalism is about, modernity is about. It's all about sedating the conscience of oneself, to keep it as quiet as possible, to numb it as much as possible. And again, not just for doing the wrong things, but as I think Michael Tessarian talks about. I'm not sure who he's sort of quoting, or if this is him, I don't know exactly, but he's saying that one of the greatest things is we feel this shame, and it's the shame that we've rejected who we are. So it's actually an internal struggle that's going on, from that point of view. You see, because you've let ourselves down, we become somebody that we're not. We're wearing a mask. We're not being genuine, we're not being true, and so we've actually
not living up to our higher self,
or our truer self. Exactly,
our truer self.
We're not. We're living by the smaller self, the lower self, the inauthentic self. And that's embarrassing to the soul, because the soul is something that's so pure, that's so divine, that, it's like walking into an ancient temple that is pristinely clean with your dirty boots, muddy boots that you've just been stepping in cow manure, whatever it is. And now you're bringing it into the sacred space of sanctity and, whatever it is, and sacredness. And so I think the soul, that's the kind of the war that goes on, I suppose. It's the soul and the self, if you want to call it, coming back to use that word, maybe self in this context, that there's a war of saying, well, from the inauthentic self, from the ego, that the soul just, and then there's something else as well, the spirit maybe, that feels the embarrassment, because it's like, if there is this trilogy, maybe soul, spirits, and matter, in a way, or something like that. I don't know. And just to feel that I don't know. There's something to with the matter that, or let's just keep it simple in the sense of the shame. So we do. There's a feeling, and I think so. That's the primal mechanism or motive for escapism in this world. Because if you're authentic to who you are, right, then you don't feel that sort of pain, I would say, or that discomfort. Now, discomfort's not a bad thing. Like I said, discomfort is the reason why we're here, or to grow, right? We need it. But there's another kind of discomfort where it's like, it's displeasure in a sense. It's like, it's scary, right? It's like fearful, that kind of discomfort. And that's what we're running away from. That is when you lose touch with your conscience. That is a very, very scary and petrifying thing. Because on the one hand, you actually realizing that you lost, when you wake up. Like if you start listening to your conscience, you look at it and you're saying, so I've got this moral compass. I've got this idea between right and wrong, or truth and false, and love and hate. And I've got this, but now, like, the body and the mind is not in link, or let's say the mind is not in sync with it. So there's absolute pain, because all has to be holistic, all has to be in balance, right? Body, mind, and spirit. So I don't know, you might look at yourself and realize, geez, man, I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a cocaine addict, or something like that. And that doesn't align with my spiritual nature, or something like that. Or I don't know, I'm addicted to sugar, or something like that. Or just things that aren't complementary to the soul, will via the body, or something like that, via the sense, or something, let's just say the body. So you wake up, and in the mind as well, like you realize, geez, I've got this this mind, and which has got this concept of myself as being, something that is not true, right? And maybe I'm seeing through the eyes of my parents, and it's a false sense of myself, which most people are carrying around. And so the wake up is very difficult, right? It's a very troubling thing, right? Because again, it's just it all has to become balanced. It all has to become holistic and in complementary to one another, in body, mind, and spirit, right? So the mind is still. It's not restless, it can be, obviously, but it's not. And there's nothing wrong with all of these restlessness, anxiousness, or whatever it is, but it's just that the mind is not the master, right? And that the emotions are not the master per se, right? And the fears are not the master, but it's the heart that's the master. And when you start living your life in that tune, in that rhythm, with that dance, then you orchestrate, or you design a life that is based more on your heart, right? And not on your mind, so to speak, not on your emotions, and I mean, emotions, all of this is very important. Not to say that emotions, some people say emotions are negative. So I'm not saying that at all. But the heart is the driving force, and the heart has created a somewhat of a heaven on earth, or a heaven in this hell, right? How they've done that, I don't know, by being loving, by being kind, sensitive, helping of others, right? Whatever it is, just bringing your light into the world, and having a healthy body, having a healthy spirit, and things like that. So you made your own little heaven on earth. And just as my friend Ricky was reminding me the other day, apparently something I said, but I don't remember, that we are our own we make our own medicine. We are the ones who make our own medicine, and we are the ones that make our own heavens, or we make our own hells. And that's something that majority of us do not want to take responsibility for or own up to. Like, heaven forbid that has to be the case. That is absolutely terrifying, but it lies within your hands. And that means that you have the capability, and you are, not just you, I'm just saying anybody, you have the capability to move your world further into a sense of heaven. Heaven, we must try and understand what that means. It's not something that's just always beautiful, but it's something that's always meaningful, right? So to speak. It's not this contrast of heaven as in sort of the Garden of Eden, and then hell is, that's too limiting to have these sort of descriptions or something or other, it's not like that. I'm saying when you endowed in meaning and significance in your life, right, then I think that's more of a heaven. When you have no meaning and it's just confusion and whatever it is, that's hell. That's a version of hell. When you're lost, that's kind of a hell. But when you found, that's more like a heaven. And maybe the duality of those two doesn't work so well, but it's something like that, And so we do that in our own lives, and it lies up to us. And it's like, but people don't want to take that responsibility. There's no ways. We don't have the confidence about ourselves. We don't even have the know-how, right? And it just seems like so much work, and it is. But I can tell you this, that through my experience of what I've witnessed and observed, is that if you don't make your life better, your life instantaneously, not instantaneously, but automatically becomes worse. You have to fight for one has to fight for their life to improve, for their life to have more meaning to it, for their life to have more beauty, right? To have more love. They have to fight for it. It's just like, anything in nature has to fight for its own survival. Right? Otherwise, even plants, they're competing with each other, right? It's competing to produce seeds, to pass on, to continue, its energy cycle. And if one's not trying to, continue and enhance their energy, and increase it, whatever it is, then it's decreasing, just by default. You see, and that's why a lot of people just fall, there's a lot of victimhood in this world. It's like, well, my energy it's being depleted by others, and it's not against, I don't have any choice in the matter here. I'm forced against my will here, and there's nothing I can do. And that's not true, So you're not a victim. in that way. It's your circumstances, your challenge. But so again, so most people, when you take that victim road, the victimhood path, then you can't get anything done, because you just, you're agreeing that your energy is depleted, but it was been depleted by others, and there's nothing that you can do to lift it up, to increase it. So it just gets worse and worse. And so that, again, the victim person doesn't want to hear, well, it's up to you to lift your energies back up again, to start increasing them and whatever it is. They'll be like, no, somebody else has got to do it. The same people that made me feel this way, that decreased my energy in the first place. And it says, well, that's not how it works. So, and if you say, well, I don't like the way that it works, you say, well, it doesn't matter whether you like it or you don't. It is the way that it is. That is the way that it is. And that's what we don't want to come to terms with. We don't want to take responsibility for that, which is terrible. But I mean, it is what it is, because, oh man, yeah. So it's up to the individual. It's amazing what an intelligent design system this is, that it truly lies in the hands of the person, not in the governments, not in the corporations, not in the shaman, not in the guru, not in the mystics, but something else besides for yourself. It was perfectly designed in this manner. And I mean, if that isn't an intelligent design, then I don't know what is, because that's sewn into the fabric of existence, of being, of life itself. I mean, that's there, and that you can feel. That wasn't just that didn't just come about because, one day there was a big bang and then all the pieces started coming together and evolving. No, this was involved with a fine intention behind it, with a brilliant, plan behind it, more than we even dare to recognize. And not only that, but at the same time, it's invisible to a certain degree, right? It's not in the Bible. I mean, the Bibles are speaking about this, and the ancient texts are speaking about it, whatever it is. But on a day-to-day level, it's not really visible. I mean, to a certain degree, it is. Like, I don't know if that's so true, because you can see goodness, you can see good people, you can feel good people, you can feel, like I'm just saying, but there isn't exactly a book that's written about all of this per se. The individual has to figure this out in their own life. It has to be understood in their own language, in their own time, in their own words. There's no school that's really explaining this, and that's what makes it also very difficult to come. In a way, it is, because it isn't taught in schools. It isn't on the movies. I mean, there are hints. Truman Show hints at it. The Matrix hints at it. They do hint at it, but the world is in complete opposition to this. I mean, the general world, the general Hollywood of things, or whatever it is, it's completely not interested. This is seen as heresy, right? As the greatest taboo in knowing who you are, knowing what you're about. Absolutely, you're not supported from a universal plan. You're completely supported, but from a worldly plan, from an economic plan, from a consumer plan, from a capitalistic plan, Marxist plan, whatever kind of plan, you are not supported in the least, and the world will go to war with you when you try and start to, take ownership of yourself, because again, you're out showing everybody else, people in your family or friends or something like that. You exposing their shame and their guilt and their lie or whatever it is, their inauthenticity, their fear, right? I mean, they don't know it, right? But there's something that's going on there. They feel it. And so you don't become very popular, you don't become popular at all, and so, but this is the journey that has to be taken, has to be taken. If you don't, you just go round and round and round, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So it has to be taken. It's not a choice. And that's what makes it like, oh shit. But that's what it's about again. It doesn't matter. You can piss and moan and complain and say, I'm not going to take it. So we don't really have a choice. It's like you're going down a river, and there's the edge, what do you call it? Or like, what do you call it when you come to a dip? A waterfall. And, you're heading down that waterfall. Now, either you can try and swim to the side of the river and pull yourself out, right? Or it's just going to take you with you. And that's what life's about, and it's designed that way so we can get our act together.
Yes, it's also like a muddy mountain. You're climbing the mountain, But when you stop, when you don't put in any effort, you slowly slide back down the mountain again.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's how it goes.